Does Zoom have something where you can record on and put on their servers, right? I think so. You work here, right, or no? Yeah, you are. So I met one of your new employees, Allison. I was hiking and she and EB were out hiking too and stuff, so up at Haviland. That's her office, okay. She did, yeah. Okay. Interesting. If you have any questions during the session, ask. It's always not, we always like getting in-person questions. Is that a copy of the slides you've got there?
No, these are just some business model canvas stuff.
Oh, good. Okay.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right. Yep, good. Why that keeps going off, huh? How long Swan been part of Baird? Is that for a while or? So Swan's, so Baird's the
Check, check, check.
would say, or would you?
Check.
Oh, totally separate. Oh, for some reason. Oh, that's where I was confused. I see this and I'm thinking, wow. I got you.
Check. Check. All right.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have this,
Uh-huh.
and then Baird is the presenting sponsor.
I see, okay.
So Swan had it for 3 years.
Yeah,
We're all good.
And then Baird
Got
now
it,
has it for
okay.
3 years.
okay.
And then
Okay,
we'll see.
clarifying that. I hadn't heard of a link up. I'm sitting there.
Yeah, they're just on the same floor.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's the only link.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, very different companies. I mean,
Oh,
the way
yeah.
you guys work, your guys' models. Okay, are we ready?
You get out of the way.
Okay. Let me just check here. Okay. Of course, I don't have my notes, but it's okay. I'll wing it.
Are we ready?
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fort Lewis College's Center for Innovation in beautiful downtown Durango, Colorado. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to the first workshop of the Swan Hawk Tank workshop series. We also would like to start out with giving a big thank you to our presenting sponsors, Baird Wealth Management, as well as Four Corners Innovation out of Farmington. And it is with great pleasure to announce that Swan Global Investments has graciously and generously agreed to sponsor this year's Hawk Tank Workshop Series. Swan Global Investment is a multi-billion-dollar wealth management and asset management company here in Durango, Colorado. And what's really fantastic about Swan is that they manage assets and resources and really looking how to mitigate and reduce risk. And that is something that they have come up with, and they have been an industry and a national leader in this area. So a big thank you to Swan for all your support. And we'd also like to welcome the Honorable Jim Candelaria this evening to say a couple of words on behalf of Swan. And I've asked Mr. Candelaria to please share why Swan is interested in supporting Hawk Tank. And many of you may be familiar with Swan because they have been a big part of this competition and of Hawk Tank over the last 7 years. A little bit of background on the Honorable Mr. Candelaria. Mr. Candelaria works for Swan Global Investments and heads up their in-house counsel. And you may be wondering, why do we see an honorable? Because Mr. Candelaria is actually a federal judge here in Durango. And what's so cool is not only do we have Swan as a sponsor, but we also have this level of individuals that are here to support you and whatever you're trying to do with Hawk Tank. Let's give you a little bit of background on Mr. Candelaria. Mr. Candelaria is from Durango, graduated from Durango High School. So I know there are a few Durango High School students participating in Hawk Tank, and we have lots of resources here in Durango for local as well as the students that are a little further away. Well, after Mr. Candelaria graduated, he went on to Metro State University in Denver to get his bachelor's degree in business. Following that, Mr. Candelaria went to the University of Denver to receive his law degree. After graduation, he did some clerking with Colorado Supreme Court Justice, and then rolled it into 17 years as a federal prosecutor, first working in the Denver area and then down here in Durango. During this time, Mr. Candelaria did some amazing work. And it wasn't just the work that he was doing within our local community, but also his outreach. And I think it really does it signals a lot about who Mr. Candelaria is. Mr. Candelaria spent 2 years in Africa, in the country of Zambia, assisting with some legal work. And what was really cool was that, and I believe in 2010, there was some legislation passed by the Zambian government that Mr. Candelaria helped draft. And what they was looking for was trying to really take a gender-based perspective to reduce bias in terms of when we have these types of legal, I want to say discussions, conflicts, challenges. And it doesn't just end there. Mr. Candelaria spent time in Jamaica helping prosecutors and judges down there with legal work. Currently, like I said before, I believe, since when, Mr. Candelaria, have you been a judge here? Since 2019. So for the last 3 years, Mr. Candelaria has been a federal magistrate here in Durango. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Candelaria to the Center of Innovation and ask him to please say just a few words.
Thank you, Michael. Well, first of all, it's an honor for me to represent Swan, a local company that, Randy Swan, our founder, moved here to Durango in the mid-90s and started this company up, and ground floor by himself. His brother helped him do some coding so they could come up with a strategy and automate that strategy, which at the time was very innovative. Many of the investment companies were not using technology the way they proposed it. And it really propelled them to the success they've had today. And the great thing about it is they've stayed local and they've hired local. And Michael will be the first to tell you, we've hired several Fort Lewis College graduates and folks who are still attending are interning for us too. And we've had just really great success. And what makes that nice is we don't have to look beyond our little town for talent. The talent's here. And it's programs like this that's really, in our view, fostering this talent. I would have loved to have had something like this when I was going to undergrad. As Michael said, I majored in business. I wanted to do the entrepreneur thing, but there just really wasn't anything like this. And I didn't have any direction. I was just kind of floundering out there. I'm going to get a business degree because that's what you do. You know, if you don't know what you do, you get a business degree. I ended up going to law school, which is what I always wanted to do. But boy, if I'd have had something like this, who knows? I could have channeled a lot of energy into this, and who knows? But what's great is that you all are going to have that opportunity, and we're more than happy and just grateful that we can sponsor the workshops to foster some of this innovation. And who knows? Who knows where it leads? But it's a great. A really great program. We're very impressed how it's grown in the last 7 years. If it can foster the growth of a new company the way it's grown itself with Hawk Tank and how it's continued to expand, the sky's the limit. So once again, we're very grateful to sponsor. We think we have a great relationship with you. We're willing to continue to contribute to that because we're benefiting from it too.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Honorable Mr. Candelaria, for these great words. Now, let's get into it. What are we doing tonight? So tonight is the night that we're going to go through the business model canvas. And I don't want to take any of the energy from Mr. Massner. But I like to view the business model canvas as really, I don't want to go this far, but really it is what a business plan should be at a certain level. Now, there'll be things missing that you will have to include in your business plan, but really this is going to be the core of your work, I think, during Hawk Tank. And with the business model canvas, we have Mr. Gary Massner here. And once again, Mr. Massner is our Hawk Tank expert. Mr. Massner has been with us since day one. And Mr. Massner, like the Honorable Mr. Candelaria, has an amazing history and background. Mr. Massner did his undergrad in electrical engineering, received his MBA at Stanford, has worked with some of the largest consulting firms in the world, worked with McKinsey, one of the largest international consulting firms. Locally, has done a number of startups. You may be familiar with the Southwest Colorado Accelerator Program for Entrepreneurs. Mr. Massner is a co-founder, is a daily contributor of Scape. Also, Mr. Massner is on the board of Stone Age Water Tools. Mr. Massner played a huge role in the ESOP, so helping transform Stone Age and the vision of Mr. Walgamot and that leadership to have employee ownership. That's who we have. And it is, I feel so blessed every year when Mr. Massner agrees to come back and share his wisdom with all of you. And that wisdom does not end in workshops. Mr. Massner always makes himself available for any follow-up questions, so please do not hesitate to forward those questions to me. So, without further ado, Mr. Gary Massner.
Thank you. Can I get the, nope, thank you. Well, first, my appreciation to Swan. It's great to have, we need amazing sponsors like that, and so thank you. And really kudos to Professor Valdez. It's hard to believe this is in the 7th year of Hawk Tank, but He started it. It was his idea, brainstorm, and he's worked amazingly energetically to improve it every year, to expand it out beyond, just what we do. It's got alumni, it's got associations with San Juan College, with high schools. It's incredible what it's turning out to be, and just improving every year. So with that, I'll launch in to this. It's the first workshop, as Michael said. In past years, what we would have done was give you an outline for the business plan to write, and you'd sit down at your computer and start writing. Fortunately, about a decade ago, after I'd started most of my companies, spent most of my years, the decade I had in venture capital in the Silicon Valley, I wish we'd had this business model canvas. What it is, it's the foundation for a really good ability to build your business model. And it's called, the book that Alexander Osterwalder, who came up with this, it's called Business Model Generation. And you can get that in the library if you want it. You can go on YouTube and find amazing numbers of people that have used it. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's the basic foundation. It's that you've got to start with to really build something. And I say it's almost like if you're building a Formula One, a race car, this is the chassis design that you start with, so that everything else fits in and connects with that. And it's just in all my, I won't even tell you how many years, but in all my years of business experience, I've seen lots of concepts, lots of tools come along, but none has taken off worldwide like the business model canvas. And the reason is it works, right? It's really something. And so, so we're going to go through it, and we're going to talk about it in pretty much detail. If there are any questions, again, they're raised, right?
They can do it in the chat box. I'm about to just give a shout out to there. And then we have also audience here in-house, and they'll just shout out questions. So don't hesitate, y'all. Okay.
So the reason it's such a powerful tool is that it enables you to focus on the essentials and to see the linkages between the different pieces of the business model that you need to find the linkages and get them working together. It brings a really focus on what you know and don't know. And you really, Steve Blank, who's a professor at Stanford now, and really is one of the people that's really focused and taken the business model canvas towards startup companies, which Osterwalder wasn't doing that, right? He was just trying to find a model that worked for any company. And Steve Blank with Eric Ries, who was somebody he invested in and made him take this course from him. And they've worked together to really do something with it, and they call it the lead startup, and they've got some agile things, so we'll talk through some of that as well. But it really shows these interrelationships, what you need to do to get pieces working together so that you can take this idea, solve a customer's problem, and turn it into a profitable growing business. And that's what that is. So it allows you really, it really allows you to focus but also to communicate. You're going to see that you can present this business, your business model, that you're building your company idea around. And it's a really easy way to communicate what's going on in this model and in all the pieces of your business idea. It's a much better than somebody sitting down and reading a 20-page business plan and trying to figure out how it all works together. So that's what's really exciting about it. I say broad uses, it must be what we've written up here. Yeah, business schools, accelerators, consultants, but companies large and small, Google's used it. A lot of the biggest companies in the world use it. Governments use it. The Defense Department's used it. Steve Blank is working now, as a matter of fact, with NSA to use a business model to figure out how they can do a better job of stopping hackers, of all things. So it's just incredible, the usage of it. So So we'll get through it, and then you're going to spend the next 2 or 3 weeks at least trying to develop your own business model canvas and keep improving it. We'll talk about how to use it, how to really use it as a tool at the end of describing what the tool looks like. So here's the business model canvas. It's 9 different individual boxes, each of which represents something. In the middle is the value proposition. We'll talk about that. On the right-hand side are the outward-facing, your customers, that you're trying to solve their problems and reach them and sell them, and how you're going to do it. So the customer segments, customer relationships, channels of distribution, and then out of all of that, presumably some revenue is going to come into the company when you sell your products. On the left-hand side are the internal things inside your company, inside those 4 walls that you have, that you've got to get right if you're going to be able to efficiently and effectively present your product or service to those customers. So you've got key partners, key activities, key resources, and then the whole cost, and I'll add the word capital structure there as well that we'll talk through. So that's how I'm going to present it. This is what you're going to fill out for your company as we go through it. So let's start. Number 1, in the center, let me go back here. In the center of everything, is the value proposition. That's the most important thing, that you've got to have something that really resonates, that really makes sense, and that you can build off of. So the value proposition is what in your product or service, and I'll tend to use the word product, but there's a lot of service companies too that, that's what they're providing. So a product or service, what's the value you're delivering to your customer? So your product or service has a bunch of features, or some other things. We'll talk about some other features that provide benefits to a customer that solves the problem, solves a problem they have, fills a need that they have, enriches their life, does something that is of value to that customer so that they're willing to pay you something for your product or service. So that's what it's all about. And you've got to get that, and you've got to have something, that really makes sense, that has some real value, and you'll test it out, you'll think it through, you'll find the customers that it fits for. We'll talk some more about that. But what is it really doing in terms of, again, solving a problem or a need for your customers that you're going after? That's the real key. And again, in this, what you really want to do, and I've seen too many entrepreneurs who just fall in love with their idea, and they don't care whether it really solves it or whether it's really needed. They just love their idea and they stick with that. Don't do that, okay? Say, I am trying to solve a problem. This is my first approach. We're going to see if it works. We're going to think it through and see all the connections. And if it doesn't, make adjustments. And we'll talk some more a little bit later. The word that's been used around startup companies now, and especially in business model canvas, when you adjust, you pivot. You turn a little bit in a new direction. And an awful lot of companies have done that. You can start, I don't care who it is, Uber, who wanted to start with a taxi company or something. People start with an idea, and when they see that it doesn't work, or that there's a way to make it work more effectively, they adjust their plan, make some modifications, and come out with a better solution, a better value proposition for your customers. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to get it done right. It could be features of the product itself. It could be how you distribute that to, what channels you use to distribute that product to your customers. So, there are customers that used to go to the grocery store and buy, and then pick up and take home their products. Now, they'll have DoorDash deliver it for them or something. So, there are ways to deliver. It's not a new product. It's a new channel, if you will, to get it to the customers, or a new relationship too. That's, when you look at all of the robotic or automated investment management things that have started up, they're replacing this personal interrelationship that a lot of, especially younger investors, just don't think that they really need it, and they'd rather work on their own with the new platforms that are out there that they can use. So lots of different ways to change, but you've got to, in the end, create a value that resonates with the customers. Okay, so that's your starting point, and everything around it has to feed in and support that value proposition. Number 2 is customer segments. And by the way, and we'll go through this, but the next workshop is going to really focus even deeper on this whole right side of the business model canvas, the market analysis, we call it, but it's really focusing on customer segments, focusing on the size and the attributes of those customers, and then and talking about channels and relationships and all of the rest. So we'll have a whole nother session that goes in more deeply, but now is the time for you to start thinking about it, getting ready so that that next session can even take you a step or two further. So, you know, what you're trying to decide here is, in your customer segments, who is it, who are the customers that you're really trying to service? And why, what subsegment of this whole world of potential customers out there are most likely to value the benefits that you're providing? Not all of us think the same about being able to save an hour or save $1 or get something new or whatever it is, but there's certain groups that do, and you need to figure out who those are, who are the most likely customers, who are the early adopters, who are those ones you can get to with the lowest potential cost, right? And all of those other things to build that base of customers that don't need the perfect product. They need the minimally viable product, it's called, that has those essential features that give them the benefits that they need. So that's what you're looking for. You're trying to think it through, you know, those that really need, that would benefit the most from my product or service, and those who are the easiest to reach, that there's some way to get in front of them and lead them through what is the customer relationship, and that's the box number 3, which is, you know, what's my relationship with my customers? How am I going to reach them? How am I going to get them through? It used to be called a sales funnel. Now we call it the customer journey. Okay, customers go through, they don't just all of a sudden wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm going to buy this product. There's a whole set of steps that they go through. They first have to find out about the product, know about it. They compare it to customers. They think it through. They look for validation that it's the right sort of product. They try it. They get feedback in terms of how it works, all of those things. So that customer journey you're looking for, and it's really tied to your relationship. What's the relationship you're trying to build with your customer segments? So is it just one-off, that they just buy one product and that's it, and you just need to find a whole lot of them to buy your product? Or is there some ongoing relationship where either you know, they pay you a Netflix or Amazon subscription fee every month, and you keep providing them ongoing, or they buy one set of products, especially in a business, tends to be true that they'll buy one set of products and then you sell them either a higher level of that product or additional products that go with it and so forth. So what's that relationship that you want to build that really, you know, it's really taking advantage of whatever your value proposition is, and just continuing all the things that you need to do to keep that customer group continuing to buy more of your products over time. So there's a whole bunch of things here, you know, and part of what you also need to do is make sure that the cost of this relationship, the cost of customer acquisition that you're getting is not so high. It can't be. I've seen too many businesses where the cost of acquiring a customer was just higher than the lifetime value of the customer almost. And they just couldn't afford, it just took too much money to keep getting customers. So you want to find, again, that customer segment that you can get and this relationship that you can have with them that you can make sure that you've got a scalable idea, that it's not so costly to acquire a customer. And you want to measure that customer acquisition cost, by the way. It's a key metric, a key indicator, performance indicator, KPI, that you want to have. So really, really important. And it can be, the customer relationship part of it, like we talked about before with the kind of robotic or automated investment platforms. That relationship that you have could be the whole differentiator in your value proposition. You're just doing it differently than anyone else has ever done it. And it really is a better solution for a certain segment of the customers, not the whole world, because they're happy. Some of them are going to be happy with what they've got, but for a certain segment, that could be absolutely what's going to drive your business growth. So customer relationships. The third then box on the customer side is the channels. How do you reach those customers? So if you've got a product, are you going direct to consumer? Which is really now that in the last 20 years, that's become something that was just not thought of very much 20 or 30 years ago, right? Because it's available now, either through the marketplaces, whether it's Etsy or Amazon, or just your own website that you want to build and go and find a way to get out there and go direct to those consumers. So, and maybe that's the best way. And again, it's somewhat dependent on your product or service, whether or not that makes sense, whether or not you can do it effectively, depends on the relationship and your value proposition. So
Gary, sorry to interrupt. Can you maybe help some of the participants in the audience understand a little bit more what channels mean?
Okay.
It would be nice to kind of define what a channel is.
Yep.
I think there might be some confusion around that. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
So the simplest way, and again, the simplest way is with a product, okay? And if a product, again, one way on a product is go direct to the consumer. The other way is that you go, and so I'll give you one example. One of the escape companies 2 or 3 years ago, I had a whole new idea for a boat fender. And I've had lots of boat fenders in my life and on sailboats. And so I loved their idea. And they went out and they went to multi-channels. You hear the term omni-channel, right? That's getting to be pretty standard. Everybody wants to have omni-channel. So even you go back to a Macy's or anybody. Macy's, yes, they sell through their stores, but Macy's was one of the very first ones to go online and sell online as well. So those are 2 different channels, right? I mean, it's the way the customer comes to them and gets their product, but it's a different channel. And now everybody, I mean, Walmart's just has done a very good job, in my opinion, of doing the online thing. So those are different channels that way. But if I go back to the fender company, to the boat fender company, so they started out just direct to consumer on their website. They would also go to trade shows and use relationships at trade shows. They signed up some independent stores, marine product stores. So that's one channel. And then they signed up West Marine, which is the biggest provider of marine products in the world almost. They've got, I don't know, 400 stores or something. So different channels. When you sell direct to the customer, you get the full price, right? But it's probably a higher cost per sale to make that sale. You go through a West Marine, you have to discount the price that they sell, that you expect an end user, a boat owner, to pay for the thing, because West Marine has to make a pretty significant margin on their own and stuff. So you sell it to them at a lower price, but you get more volume with relatively little of your own marketing costs through somebody like that. So it's a way to do it. Same thing with services, with other things. You can use sales forces that are out there, distributors they're called, that's what they do. They take a markup, but they've got relationships with stores or people or whatever it is. Lots of software companies sell through accountants, right? As well as trying to sell directly to businesses. They'll have a program with accounting firms because they know those accounting firms already have clients that need their product. And so they'll sign them up. And so that's a software or a service. It can be the same thing. So you're looking for the best way to reach those customers. And it's not always doing it yourself. It's using people that already have relationships with those customers or have spent the assets like West Marine has to build 400 stores around the country that those customers use. So it's just a way to find the best way, the most efficient, that is the least cost way in a sense, then, but there's volume in there in that equation as well. So it's the way you're going to find the most profitable way to get a sale to those customers. Okay, that, you think that answers? Okay, good. Okay, so again, channels, and you can't, it's, you know, it is so, all these things are so dependent on what your product or service offering is. You know, you can't, there's not one final, you know, we can't publish one business model canvas that everybody can use because you're all different. Okay, and that's the process that you're going through to come up with that, and it's certainly true in channels stuff. Okay, okay.
Can I ask one more question? Question over here?
Okay.
No. So the other question I have, if we go back, Gary, is, you know, and I really like this, you know, when I work with my students and I talk about the channel phases, is that when we start with the value prop and now we're going to the customer segments, right? And then we're sort of talking about, okay, well, how are we going to communicate with them? I think, you know, when Mr. Massner puts out the awareness, evaluation, purchase, delivery, after sales, it's more or less the sales cycle and your relationship with your customer. And what's really cool is, and I think this is why I love Business Model Canvas, is that hopefully you're going to recognize that maybe your customers and the channels where they get awareness is not actually where they actually do their purchase. And so I think by understanding those channels and the buying cycle and how the market and individuals communicate with your customer, that's the gold. That's what you need to understand, because we have to hit them in every single phase, exactly. Right? The most efficient way possible. And when we get down to the purchase and delivery, Mr. Massner is saying is, look, it may not just be direct. Your purchase and delivery might be through multiple third parties. Right? Amazon is not selling everything direct, right? They're leveraging other parties selling their goods and vice versa. And so I think that's what we really, I think that's what I'd love for you to take home, and I'm sure Mr. Massner too.
Exactly. And again, this is, you know, we call them channel phases, but this is the customer journey, right? These are steps they go through to before they actually buy, purchase, take delivery of, use, and get feedback on the product. So again, you know, like Professor Valdez said, you could spend your money just trying to make them aware, but really to get the product, maybe you've set it up that you're selling them through, you know, some set of stores. We've got another company that's going now, just finished the last Scape one, and he has built a set. It's amazing. It sounds kind of crazy, but it's pretty amazing. Incredibly good speakers built essentially inside a 1-inch thick picture. So you hang them on your wall, they connect. The first version were just individual Bluetooth. Now he's got them Wi-Fi together, so you can put them in every room and they'll be all playing the same song or something. And the quality is just incredible. Okay, so he wants to go direct. He's going to do that. He's probably going to do a Kickstarter program to, you know, get some awareness. Well, first you got to build awareness, build some people, and then go out on Kickstarter, get it started. But he's also looking at maybe going into some of the bigger home product people, whether it's IKEA or Crate and Barrel or RH or whatever it is. So he's talking about going through there, and he's working through the numbers. Can I afford? You know, can I still make enough margin on my product? And we'll go through that in the third workshop when we pull it all together and talk about financials that are kind of important, right? But you know, can I make enough margin through this channel to really make it work and stuff? So that's what he's working through now. So good questions. Okay, so then all of these things come together and they create this thing that's a really nice thing to have for every company, and that's called revenue, right? And that's why you're doing it, right? To sell some product, make some revenue, and hopefully more than cover your costs, so you've got some bottom line profit. So you've got revenue streams. And again, these are dependent on this whole set of what your value proposition is and what the whole customer side of who your customers are, what the relationship is, what the channels are, and all of that. So it can be anything we talked about before, from the price for one product that they pay to a subscription model to some sort of a start with this, and then when you want to go up to a higher level, we've tried, and it's really fading away. I've never been a big fan of it, but especially in the consumer side, there's a lot of this thing called freemium, where it's almost faded away now, which I'm glad that it has, because I never liked it. But you go out and you say to customers, you say to people, try this, it's free, just use it. But when you really want some value out of it, when you really want the benefits, then you're going to have to pay some money for it, right? And you're going to have to go up to a higher level. That works in some cases. It works for some customers that are businesses typically. Sometimes works for individuals. I find hesitation to sort of make that move. And I think most companies overestimate how many customers really will make that move, but they have it. Even, Netflix has different levels, right? They've got the standard, they got a premium. So you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't like the free and then pay something, but to have different levels of what you get for the product, that's fine. And there are going to be some people who value that next step up in terms of whatever additional features or usage or numbers of times they can, do something with it. So that's a good system, right? And so you've just got to think that through.
Sorry to interrupt, Gary. Yeah, so I'm going to put Mr. Massner on the spot a little bit. And because I want to hammer home one really important point. As Mr. Massner said, the core of the business model canvas is the value propositions, right? The core is not a product. The core is not a service, right? And I think, and the reason why I want to hammer this home is because if we look at the top of this slide, the very first question is, what value are the customers willing to pay for? And I think for all of the budding entrepreneurs out there, the current entrepreneurs out there, that is where we have to focus on. And so I would ask Mr. Massner, how would you define value? How, if the students are trying to understand what does value mean, right? How would you define it for them?
Well, it really is the benefit you're providing to that customer and what value the customer puts on it. So I'll give you one example. We provide some software to municipal governments. It was one of the companies, again, that went through Scape and was able to sell for an incredible multi-tens of millions of dollars within less than 4 years. They had a great product that automated some things for municipalities. Now, what the municipalities got of it was multiple values. They were able to provide better service to their businesses in their community that got licenses and had to do sales tax payments to the city. They automated that whole process and made it faster, smoother, better, easier for the municipality. Made the municipalities look smarter and more competent, which is always a nice thing to do, right? And made both the management of the city staff and whatever the mayor or city council was look better, look more leading edge. And that's a value, but it also allowed those municipalities to reduce the clerical staff that they used to have, taking all these checks and doing all this stuff. So they got cost savings and they got this other benefit, and that was a value to them. And so how do you charge for that? Do you charge them exactly what they could cut in cost? No, because then you're putting all the value on looking smarter, better, more leading edge and stuff. So you have to share the value of the benefit to your customer. That's what you've got to figure out. Okay, so again, we used DoorDash a minute ago or a few minutes ago. So, some people that are working from home, they have high-paid jobs and maybe have started a second job on the side too at home and are they don't have time to go to the grocery store and pick up, and shop through the aisles and then drive home again, right? They'd much rather have, put in the order and have somebody deliver for them. Those people are going to value that DoorDash delivery, or from a restaurant if they're buying it, if they're buying it from the restaurant, they're going to value that much higher than somebody who's maybe already working in town, doesn't have that high paying a job, just can't afford, those things. So again, it's what's the value to your customer. That's what you got to try to figure out. You've got to try actually to put a dollar value on that, a dollar number on amount on that. Okay, because there are lots of benefits, but in the end, you've got to try to put something. Now, it's not like somebody's going to say, well, I'm a stay-at-home lawyer working and, I'm making X dollars per hour. They're not going to be that specific, but there's going to be this sense of, what their time is worth and what they'd pay somebody to save them an hour or two, or to make something else easier for them than it's been in the past. So they're saving time, or they get some new product that makes them look better, smarter, more adaptive, more leading edge in their community or something, whether it's a person or a business and stuff. So you've just got to try to put that sense on it. There's not a hard formula, as you knew by asking that question. There's not, you can't just put something in a computer and it'll kick out the number. You've got to do some thinking about it, talk to some of these potential customers and see what value they think there is and so forth. So really important to do.
Well, yeah, thank you, Mr. Massner. And I think what's really cool about this idea is it extends to every single business. It extends to every single organization. And the example that I think really resonates with my students is I always like to ask them, why would someone pay $3.50 for a large coffee at Durango Joe's when they can walk down the street to the gas station to Brennan's and spend 75 cents? Right? And so what type of value is that Durango Joe's is giving as opposed to, let's say, Brennan's, right? One of the value is they have access to really nice beans, right? They have access to high quality roasters. The way they make you feel when you walk into Durango Joe's. Why? Because they train their employees well. They hire great employees, right? That's the value that when I pay $3.50 for a large coffee, that's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for access, if you're the one on college, to the meeting room they have in the back. If you're going to Durango Joe's in that beautiful one in Farmington, right? All the access you have as a customer there. That's the value that Joe's provides their customers that really, I think, motivates their customers to spend that premium dollar for that cup of coffee. Because Durango Joe's has to show that value. Why? Because there's a lot of other options. Even the Durango area, they can go to Starbucks, they can go to 81301, they can go to a gas station. If you're on campus, you can use Sodexo. And so I think that's what I want Hawk Tank participants to think about, is what is the value you're creating that customers, like Mr. Massner says on this slide, are willing to pay for.
And again, it's really an important point, because the gas station could be using the same beans, but people would certainly still pay more because they think it's better. It's presented better. The relationship with the customer is better. All of those things that the value proposition of a Durango Joe, and Durango Joe's is local. That's all another thing to build, right? That you want to support local businesses and stuff. So all of those things together, you build your marketing concept and your marketing brand. You build around those things, perceived benefits, real or not. You want them to be real. Okay, we've had too many attempts at perceived values and perceived benefits, but you want it to be real, but you build around that, and the customer puts a higher value on your product and is willing to try it and pay hopefully a fair premium price, we'll call it that. Okay, so again, and again, you can't, there's no, there's no magic formula for pricing. Okay, you've got to make sure that you're going to make a profit eventually, at least. Very few companies start out day one making a profit. They've just built in some costs to do something. They haven't been able to scale up. Now, if you're a small shop or store, yeah, you're gonna get profitable pretty soon, or you got a problem. But if you're another kind of a business, you've got to create the product. You've got to get your marketing in place. You've got to do all of these things, and then go out and start selling it. And if it's a product that you have to buy materials or something to start with, you're going to be paying a higher price because you're buying smaller quantities until you get bigger. So even this thing called gross margin, where what are you making on each product, and then you've got all your fixed costs of all your marketing and finance, all these other things that you've had to put in place to be ready to scale up. So you won't make money initially, but you have to make sure that you priced it so that when you've projected those scale up opportunities and the benefits that you have as a company of scaling up, of lowering your cost per sale, that you're going to make money. So you've got to just think through that pricing. And again, so it's partially has to do with the economics of your business, but it has to do, more importantly, with the perceived value that the customer is putting on the benefits that you're providing to them, to say, is this the right price? And the way we've done it, is this the right way? I mean, Amazon, this thing where you pay a fixed price per year, used to be $99. I think it's $109 now. I don't even look at it anymore, right? But that you get all these free shipments, and you get, the Amazon video thing every month, although, they're spending more and more time trying to get you to rent certain movies and stuff, and all that stuff. So they've added that little premium feature to make some money. So lots of different ways to do it. You've just got to figure out what works best for you, for your value proposition, and the customers that you're trying to serve.
So please do not freak out if you're listening to Mr. Massner and you're like, pricing? I don't know what to price it. Or, oh my goodness, how do I come up with a formula to figure out exactly how much I need to sell? We have you covered. That we have other workshops that will answer all of those questions. We have mentors that can help you and guide you. We also have Beta Alpha Psi that's here to support y'all. Remember, tonight we're just going over the business model canvas. And so those nitty gritty, where the rubber hits the road type of questions, we have you covered. Yep. So please, Ellie, you have a question?
What if you're not even sure you want your business model to be for profit? What if you're kind of thinking about a non-for-profit?
Oh, there's lots. This business model canvas works perfectly for nonprofits.
Sure.
And there's some.
And we can still compete.
Sure.
Absolutely. So the question is just for the individuals that couldn't hear Ellie, was number one is, what if you're interested in a nonprofit? First and foremost, I'm going to answer that question first. So one thing that we have to recognize is that if you do have an idea for a nonprofit, that the problem that you're trying to solve, you think the best solution is going to be through a nonprofit. The one thing that I always try to tell my students, any type of nonprofit that I'm consulting, is you have to make money. Okay. And so the business model canvas, look, you have to provide value that someone's willing to pay for. Right. And that doesn't mean that you're going to grow a huge business and someone's going to be making millions of dollars who the founder is. No, you've decided that every penny that you make, you're going to reinvest it in the organization. And so you can further your mission. You still need financial resources to pay living wages. You still need financial resources for goods and services to help you achieve your mission. So 1000% Hawk Tank is for you. Okay, we've had winners that support nonprofits. We've had lots of nonprofits, and with lots of mentors out there to help individuals like you, Ellie, that are interested in nonprofits. But without a doubt, I always tell my students, you have to make money because you need those financial resources to achieve whatever your goals are. Okay.
Yep. And some is just terminology or language. You don't call it revenue, you call it contribution streams. right? And where am I going to get it? And I'm going to get those contribution streams because those people that are going to contribute are seeing the value that I'm providing, not to customers, but to the people that need my service, whatever it is. So whether you're Durango Trails or Mountain Studies Institute or Humane, or anybody, Humane Society, or, you name it. And I was just reading actually an article about business model canvas for nonprofits. And you Google that and you'll find lots of good examples that'll help you kind of redefine some of the terminology here to be really specific for nonprofits. Again, even individuals have used the business model canvas. How am I going to build my value over time? But nonprofits use it extensively. It's really still a great tool. So, okay. So now we've taken care of the right-hand side of the business model canvas, all the external, outside-facing ones. Now we'll talk about some of those things. And again, I just want to add another thing. You're going to get a lot more in-depth stuff as we go through it, but you need to start thinking through the process right now of pricing and how we're going to do it, what the value is. You're not going to get all the way there, but you've got to start thinking, build that, build what you know and don't know, and what you need to be. What is it? What's my biggest unknown? What's my biggest risk? What do I have to really focus on through this process to really make sure I've got a really great business model that I can build off of here and stuff. So, okay. So now let's move to the other side. Again, what you're doing within the four walls, if you will, of your company that really is going to allow you to provide that value proposition effectively, efficiently, something you can repeat over time and scale up over time. So the first, good, okay. So the first is, who are my key partners? Who do I need to partner with to really make this work? You can say, well, I'm just going to do everything myself, but think it through. There are people out there, whether it's suppliers, right, that are going to provide you with the materials you need to put your product together. So certainly a consumer product needs that. If I'm doing something else where I really need somebody, I need legal advice, I need some people to help me go through trademarking and maybe patent filing. I need somebody else to do this. Who are those partners that I'm going to need to really be able to support me and help me build a successful company? So it can be all sorts of people. Again, very dependent on what it is that your product or service is, but just think that through. What you don't want to do is try to do everything yourself. The two most valuable resources that you have are money and your time. Okay, and yeah, you could probably do everything yourself if you're really good, or maybe hire somebody to do that, but you don't have the time to focus on things. You need to find some partners who are going to help provide those capabilities for you so that you can focus on the really crucial aspects of building the business.
Gary, can you give us some examples on some of those? I mean, you've already talked about some of those partners, you've alluded to them, but could you provide just some examples on so some of these partners might look like? I mean, a great one would be this idea of reduction of risk and uncertainty. What might be a partner that you might work with that would help you reduce risk, reduce uncertainty?
Sure. So, you're going to need, and again, we have this other, another company. I'll try to give you a specific example of, he's come up with this thing. He hopes he can get it patented. We're still working on it, but it's a way to put together some different materials to make incredibly non-destructive cases. So, and he's got this great picture of this huge Humvee, I think it is, I'm not even sure what it is, with its tire rolling over this case that he's built for bongo drums or something. I forget what it's for, but, and it's holding up, right? And so he's doing that, but he also now is saying, this is not just that structural thing, but the whole ecological thing, because I'm using I'm using natural hemp as one of the layers in this thing. And so what I want to do is show that I'm making a product that is just more ecologically sound, beneficial than what other people are doing with their things. So he's got a data, he's hired a data company, essentially, that's working with him to try to go through this whole process of coming up and saying, here's the sort of carbon effect of this whole product that you're building, and we're going to compare it to something else. So that's, it's kind of a really specific example, but you could, you're going to do some testing of your product. So you're going to bring somebody in to do that. So they've got to be partners. You're going to get, some other partners that help you with some of your key internal activities, whether it's accounting or legal or these other things. You're going to need an IT thing. And so you're going to hire, I talked to you before about the company that was doing software for municipalities. Did they hire their entire IT department? No, they hired one person to sort of manage the whole thing, but then they went outside and used some of the independent software development firms that are out there. That, for them, was a key partner, somebody they had to work with to get a good price, but know they were getting priority when they needed something done, know they were getting high quality for how it was done. Then they went through this other process of having it verified that it was really non-hackable. There are some people that do that. So there are all sorts of things like that. Again, very dependent on your specific situation, on your specific product or service. But just think that through and think through what you're going to have to do as you go through this, and how do you start building those partnership relationships as early as possible. And again, to be beneficial to all of them. The partner's not going to do something for you for nothing. They want something out of it. And you just have to build that and show that either you're going to pay them and it's still better for you than trying to do it yourself. So,
Thank you.
okay, so key partners. And again, you're trying to optimize the way you do things, get it done quickly at the least cost. And the risk reduction is you don't want to try to hire this. You want to use somebody that's proven they can already do it. And, yeah, you'll have to pay for it, but, it's just a better way to do it than doing it yourself. So, and then again, the resources or activities that you're really acquiring. So key partners. The next one is, again, thinking through all of the key activities that you're going to have to do to provide this product support, to get, to have all of the activities you need to lead, not to lead, to work with your customers as they're going through this journey, to support, to support their experience. You want them to have a positive experience. What are the things you need to do to make sure that your customers, either they keep coming back and using you again and again and again, or they just tell all their friends, you've got to try this. So yes, you have to do all those things. It starts with developing the product itself or the service itself, getting it tested, understanding them, all of those things. And just start thinking through those and start thinking through, okay, what am I going to need to do that, right? And we'll talk some more about cost and resources, but when am I going to start it? How am I going to do it? Am I going to have to hire somebody internally? Can I go outside with one of these resources? So all of those things, these things really, again, interconnect the partners and the activities, and then in the end, the resources. So
Gary, and I just really, once again, I want to hammer this home, y'all, it is all about those value props, right? So the example that I gave before, we talked about Durango Joe's. And if we're saying that one of the value propositions for Durango Joe's is their high level of customer service, we're saying that people will spend $1 per cup of coffee for extraordinary customer service. So if that's what we're saying is the value prop that people are willing to pay for, that we're saying is going to differentiate us, then we better see some key activities that relate to good customer service. It better be that, hey, we have to hire really well. We have to train our employees really well because that's what leads to those value props of tremendous, extraordinary customer service. And so that's where we see that connection, right?
Okay.
That's where it always comes back to those value props, because that's what you're hanging your hat on in terms of this is why people are going to come to us. This is why they're going to pay maybe a premium, or this is why they want to support our nonprofit, Ellie. And so that's why it always goes back. That's why the value prop is the core, is the center.
Yep. And it's a really good example. The training, there are other retail operations that I guarantee you don't spend the amount of time training the Durango Joe's does, or even a Starbucks, all of these. Training not only in how to make coffee, but how to interact with the customers, how to just build off their value prop that Durango Joe's has, right? So those are the key activities, perfect examples. Okay, questions? Okay. Yep. Okay. So key activities. So all of these things that we're talking about then require resources, right? I mean, nothing just happens. It doesn't materialize overnight out of the ether. You've got to have the resources to support that. So again, same thing. What key resources do our value proposition require? Okay, right back to that same thing. Every one of these boxes, as Michael said, every one of these boxes ties back to your value prop. It's the central hub of everything in your business model. Okay, and it all has to tie back together. So what resources do I need to really make the business proposition work, right? In the distribution channels, in the relationship with the customers, in revenue streams, in what I'm doing internally, all of those things, I need resources to do that. Dollars, again, partnership and things like that you're using, but you've just got to think that through. So it's, physical, if you've got to, especially if you're making a product, you need to have the equipment to make it, right? And to store it and stuff. Intellectual property is really crucial in terms of, and we'll talk some more in the market analysis, but one of the things that wasn't a strong focus of the business model canvas was the competitive landscape that you're in. And again, what are you doing differently? When you think about your value proposition, either it's a whole new product that's just never, ever been introduced in the world before, which aren't many of, or it's a product that has, better features that create better benefits, or it's presented in a new way, or something about it, okay, that's different. But you have to be different than the competitors that are out there. And maybe a competitor is just inertia, that your customers they just don't want to go through the process that it takes to onboard your product or service, because it's just not worth it to them to spend that time or energy or intellectual brain power to do it. So they just live with whatever they're doing now because they don't want to change. But you need to be different than the competition, and you need to try to build an idea of how I'm going to protect that competitive advantage. What Warren Buffett always called the moat. The moat around your castle that keeps those people that are trying to invade your castle from getting to you. The competitors that are trying to storm the walls and take you down and stuff. So what am I going to do? And one of them, obviously, is your intellectual property and stuff. So brand patents, but building your brand, really building something, it takes time. It takes a lot to do that, but you're going to want to build that brand around your company, whether you're a product or service or a nonprofit and stuff, for sure. So what are those things we're doing? The data that I'm collecting about my customers, did I know more about them than my competitors? Something. Okay, what's that intellectual property that I'm going to try to get? You're going to need human resources, right? You're going to need to build an organization around yourself, and you got to figure out where to start and at what level and what kind of people and how flexible they are and what they want out of life and what they're trying to do what they're going to do to really support your value proposition that you're trying to build a company around. So really key. And then obviously in the end, financial. It takes money to do this. And again, we'll talk some more about that in the third workshop when we go through and actually give you this model that allows you to make these projections, we hope, in a relatively straightforward way. So those are these resources. And again, you got to start thinking about them. You're not going to get to the final thing right away. You've got a lot more to go through in this whole process, but start thinking it through and at least being able to put a little post-it sticker up on your thing, and we'll go to that process now. So whoops. Okay. So all of this then comes together, these activities, the resources, all this, into what's your cost structure look like? Okay, what is the cost? What's it going to cost me to essentially reach my customers, channels I'm going through, the relationships I'm building with them, I'm providing them this product or service that I've had to develop in-house and then support it as we're going through, support it after they're using it. So what are those? So part of what you think about, and again, we haven't seen too many of those, but are you cost-driven or are you value-driven? And I'm going to say 99% of you are going to be value-driven. You're not starting out saying, I've got this great idea that I can deliver this for a lower cost, except, if you see that competition is trying, and competitors copy each other all the time. That's just life, right? That's how they do things. And they always try to add something new, especially when when a competitor comes out, they'll add it in, and pretty soon things look pretty undifferentiated. And they're trying to sell this whole package of things to customers. Well, maybe the customers don't really value all of those features. They don't need them all. They don't want them all. There's one or two of them that really make most sense, that give them the most benefit. So if you can eliminate those other costs in this product or service and really focus it down on a couple of key things, and therefore charge your customers less than they're currently paying, but they get equal or better benefits, that's the value. Now, we don't see a lot of models like that, although you could say that a DoorDash, in a sense, they could say, gee, or that I'm got multiple deliveries I'm making, it's really less costly and especially with time factored in or something. But that's a bad example. But there are some people, there are some where that's their focus, to try to do that, to try to have a really cost-efficient product benefit that they're providing and stuff. But most of you are going to be value-driven, right? I think you're going to try to come up with this new idea of new values that your value proposition is presenting to your customers and stuff. So if you're value-driven, you're going to be somewhat less focused on cost. Now, you can't be, I can't say you don't have to focus at all on them, because you still have to, again, provide that benefit of your value proposition at a cost that your customers will accept. So you're going to be doing that. You're going to have some fixed costs, so you're just going to have to, regardless of how much you're selling, you're going to have those, whether it's, an office, my main computer system, my this is or that's, those are fixed costs, machinery to build my product, whatever it is. There's some other variable costs that depend on the level of marketing and or customers you're going after, the level of production that you're doing, and things like that. So again, we'll talk about more of those later. You're going to get some economies of scale. Again, as you get bigger, your cost per unit, your cost per customer acquisition, your cost of production, those all go down over time as you scale up your business. If they don't go down, then you probably got a problem, but they will for sure. And scope is just, are you going out into some new markets? Are you going to some adjacent markets where you've already got the customers and you're selling them a product that they could kind of relate to because of what they're already getting from you? So things like that. So again, very dependent on your individual business model that you're building, but that's it. So
Gary, just a couple additions here. If you're looking at some of this terminology, economies of scale, economies of scope. Obviously, I know you're all really smart, and you'll go and you'll look it up and you'll find the definition. please reach out to me. Reach out to Mr. Massner. We are here to help you define that, right? Fixed costs are those costs that you have to pay no matter if you sell one product or no. Variable costs are those costs that increase as you sell or produce more, okay? We're talking about economies of scale. Like Mr. Massner said, as you grow your business, let's say you're making shoes, and let's say that machine costs you $1 million to make. Let's say you produce one pair of shoes in the first year. Well, guess what? It's going to cost that pair of shoes over $1 million, right? Because you have to recoup all of that. But now let's say you produce 1 million pairs. Now that cost is only $1 for that machine per pair of shoes. That's the savings you see from economies of scale. That's the efficiency, I guess is a better word. The economies of scope. The way I like to remember that is, let's say you are really good at marketing to the 20-something generation. Let's say you're extraordinary. What if we could use that exact same skill, that exact same capability to still reach those 20-somethings, but a different product? That's economies of scope, is taking this expertise and entering new markets. There's other sort of definitions of economies of scope also, where let's say you're producing fine wood frames. And let's say you have all this scrap. And let's say you use that scrap to produce something else. That's also considered economies of scope. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me and ask these questions. There are no dumb questions. I really believe that. And we're here to support you. So even if the small terminology you're not sure with, sit down tonight, shoot me an email. Hey, Dr. Valdez, I don't know what this means. Awesome. I'll give you the answer. I'll set up a time for us to chat more. So please, I know Mr. Massner goes through this and with quite depth, but maybe you need a little bit more support, and we're here to help you. Okay?
And again, you're not trying to define down to, exact numbers today at the start of this when you're doing your business model canvas. You're not trying to get real specific yet. By the third workshop, as you work through that and go through that process, then you'll start getting more specific. But just try to understand, what are my fixed costs going to be to do this thing? What like if it is machinery, if it is this organization that I need to have these capabilities, what is it going to be? And part of it is, we get back and we'll get, again, is these two-sided markets. Am I going to have some different costs here and there because I'm providing a service? Let's go, Airbnb, perfect example. You need renters, right? They're going to rent that house, but you need houses too. You've really got two different sets of customers. I'm going to be having to have costs, and just this thought that I'm going to have costs to do these sorts of things. And what is it going to be? Just, detail that, yeah, I've got to get some more specific knowledge about what those costs are, but just recognize them now. Just try to put a title, a name on them, and then we'll keep working through and doing those things that Professor Valdez said. So, okay. So, so again, the real key thing here, and people have been through this really and do it successfully, really understand that you've got to start out and say, hey, right now, I don't know that I've got something for sure that'll work. I don't know that it's going to be scalable, but I have this idea. It's a set of hypotheses, right? It's a set of assumptions. And what you need to do is find a way to validate those, to explore them, and really get some input and get some feedback from other people that you're going to run this whole idea by, and really check them out. Okay, really understand that you got something that'll work. Okay, some of it's going to be, trying to run it by some potential customers. So I remember, this goes way back. I think it was 20-some years ago, before there was everything there is today, and phones and mobile phones were even not that. They couldn't do what they do today, right? And I had this idea, though, that, boy, if I was in a store and I could take a picture or scan, at the time, there was no way to really download pictures very easily, but if I could scan a barcode of a certain product, and then I could I could download that somehow in this app and see if it was available someplace else at a lot lower price. And I said, I don't know if people would do that, but so I went to a Costco and stood there and just stopped some people and asked them, would you be interested in something like this? And they all were really excited. I never went ahead with that idea, obviously, but those are the kinds of things you've got to do, right? You've got to get some feedback from some of your potential customers. Have I got something that'll really work? So you're gonna test it, right? You're gonna do some analysis of some of your other assumptions about market size or this or that about benefits and things like that, and your cost pictures and stuff. So you're gonna do all those things, and then, if it's all working, which it never does that smoothly from day one, you're gonna have to make some adjustments. You're gonna have to think through, gee, if I made these changes, I could have a lot more effective business model that's really profitable and scalable and stuff, and is solving really fundamental customer problems or needs and stuff. So that's what this whole process is about. And you want to keep it, you want to have that mindset that I'm just really working through this and testing all this out. I'm not trying to put down on a piece of paper, once and for all, the final version of all this. I'm really willing to keep an open mind to just go through this process and really come out with the best possible business model. Okay. And so that you adjust it and pivot, you could call it dramatic or not, but a pivot, you're going to potentially change what your original idea is with the concept, again, that you're coming up with the best possible value proposition that's profitable and scalable. Okay. So again, as I've said before, I've never seen a business concept or tool that's done what the business model canvas has, but it's just incredible. But like any tool, you get the best results if you use it correctly, right? So the way that people have found to use that is you go through what we'll call a logical order. It's not everybody's going to agree to that, but you start with your customers first, right? They're the most important. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to solve their problem or need or wish. So you go through those boxes first. And then when you see how that's coming out, that tells you, the other side. That tells you the activities you need to perform, the resources you need, the partners you need, the cost structure you're going to have. So do the right side first, just like we went through this.
And I want to show you all. So this is what it looks like. And when Mr. Massner talks about the box numbers, so this is number one in the beginning, their value prop. And then you do this side first, the left side, and then you do the right side. Now,
Or right side if you're facing it first.
exactly. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Massner. Now, we have these for every single participant for Hawk Tank. So please, number one, if you're at Fort Lewis College, send me an email and I can deliver it on campus, or come by EBH 150 and pick it up. I also have stickies, because remember, Mr. Massner says that this is an iterative process. You're going to come up with some value props. When you test it, maybe it's not a real value. The same thing when it comes to maybe some of the customer segments, some of the channels. And so I also have different colored Post-it notes. Because what we're going to see is maybe you have multiple customer segments and all your value props do not directly relate to each individual customer, right? And so maybe you have a couple value props that relate to one customer, and you have other value props that relate to another customer. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that may be the case. So we have these. Now, if you're joining us from Farmington and San Juan College, then please send me an email. You can go to sanjuancollege.edu/hawktank, and my contact information is there. Or go to fortlewis.edu/hawktank, and you'll see my contact information there also. It's mevaldez@fortlewis.edu. Send me your address, and I will mail you one of these posters as well as Post-it notes. This is a great, great resource, as well as a great skill to learn and how to leverage this, and we have everything you need. So thank you, Mr. Massner.
I mean, I'll just add to that, that what you're going to learn going through this process, I guarantee you, you'll be able to use it multiple times in your future careers, whatever they are, whatever it is, whether it's nonprofit, government, small companies, large companies. You're going to learn some skills here. Hopefully you'll all, well, you can't all win, okay? So, but I mean, that's what you're trying, but you're going to learn skills that you're going to be able to use throughout your career that I think are very valuable. I wish I had some of these skills, would have made a lot of things easier. And I probably, in the 2 startups I did myself way back, one which I said I sold too early and one too late, I probably would have had a little more knowledge and understanding and done. It came out great, so I'm not complaining, but I wish I'd had this toolkit in those days. So again, as Professor Valdez said, again, what you're trying to do is really be flexible and really just trying to test out everything you're doing. So that's why we don't want you to write on this and then you change it and you're gonna have to get a whole new thing. Put up Post-it notes on it, okay? And put one thing on each poster note, one, if you have different customer segments, one on each poster note. If you've got different ones, use different colors. If you've got different channels that you're going through, use a different color for those 2 channels and stuff, just so you can kind of keep them separate and communicate. Talk with people about it. Present this. I mean, just bring somebody in off the street or whatever, and say, hey, I want to run through my business model idea with you and stuff. You're not going to do that. You're not going to pull people off the street. But, the more friends and roommates and other things that you can run this by, and you're going to get some feedback from mentors, you're going to be presenting them. So you'll get a lot of feedback, but the more you get, the more that you have people that can question your hypotheses and get you to think about them, the better off you are. So do that whenever you can.
And the advice that I love, Mr. Massner, and you gave actually this to me before, and you've given it to other participants, is put this up in your dorm room.
Yeah.
Put this up in your apartment. Put this up in your living room. And just like when you're walking past it, you're going to have those aha moments. Make the change. Really, that's where it comes in. It's organic and you get to use all of your creativity. This is one of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur, is that you get to express yourself through these really cool ways. And so and I love that recommendation. I know that sounds really corny out there, but really it is awesome. You put it up there and you'll just, make those changes and you'll see it. It'll just constantly evolve. And I think you'll really be able to show your creativity and you'll be able to capture all of this wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and when you get up in the morning and get a cup of coffee and go stand in front of it and look at it and think about it a little bit and stuff. Or as Professor Valdez said, you'll be walking by and you look and you will get an aha moment. Something will just come in your head because it's up there and you're thinking about it all the time and stuff. So, yep, do that. Put it up someplace where you walk by it often in your dorm or apartment or wherever or house or wherever you're living and stuff. So, and again, on some of the biggest unknowns, the ones that you think are the most important, mark those, put those, use a regular black Sharpie or to write all this stuff, but the most important ones put in red. So you're focusing on those all the time and thinking about them. Those things that you think are the most crucial to trying to ensure the success of your company. Okay, so do that.
And if you need Sharpies, I have those too. So please, I'm serious.
Really?
We have everything for you. Okay, Baird's been very generous. Swan's been very generous. Our sponsors have been very generous. So really, we have everything you need to be successful.
And bottom line, don't try to optimize it the first time through. Just go through it, brainstorm in your own mind or with somebody else you're working with on the idea. Just get some stuff up there, okay, and all of it. And then you can keep kind of going back over it and reiterating all the time. Don't think that you're going to stand there and spend hours in the customer segment box. Well, you start with the value prop box, but whatever it is, whatever you're working on, just try to put up whatever ideas you've got and get something up there. Then just kind of come back and keep reiterating through it and trying to continue to improve it as you go through the process. Okay. Revisit, review, revise. Those are 3 R's in this thing that are kind of important. So, do we have one more? Okay. Well, I think we have I think it is an old slide. I've got to get up. Okay. So so again, I describe the business model canvas as the chassis or the foundation for building whatever you're going to build on and stuff. You've got to add some other pieces to it to come up with a complete picture, okay? And again, you're going to get that as we go through this whole process and additional workshops and additional support and all that. So competitive positioning, we'll talk about blue ocean strategy, which is also, I think, a remarkable concept that they've done about how to be different. And we'll talk about some of the examples of that when we do this next market analysis workshop. So you've got to have that. You've got to have a marketing plan, a marketing model. How am I going to reach those customers, to make them aware and then work with them through this customer journey as they make the decision to try my product? So you've got to have a marketing plan, a marketing model. You need an operations model. What do I need to do? Those activities we talked about. Not in great detail here, but you need to really be able to say, can I do that? Can I make this product or service and stuff? The financial model, that'll be the third workshop that we're going to work with you. What are, where's this thing going? Am I going to be profitable as soon as possible? And what's it going to take in terms of capital resources to get me to that, through that loss valley to the point where I'm making money and stuff. And then the investment model, again, it's a few lines. It's not a real detailed thing, but how much money do I need really to support this idea, and where's that going to come from? I mean, not specifically where it's going to come from, but it's probably going to be equity capital from some sort of investors. Potentially, if you've got equipment and other stuff, you can find a way to finance some of that. But it's just, it's just a final step of what I need to really make this a successful company. So I think that, okay, so now we're back again to the final thing showing the picture. And this was actually a specific one used by somebody. So that's the business model canvas. Again, I think it'll really help you really think through the process. You've got to use it, in the way we've talked about doing it. The more effort you put into it, the better and stuff, but stay flexible, understand that you've got a set of assumptions and hypotheses that you're trying to validate in your own mind and with other people's inputs and really build a successful business model. So appreciate the input and the questions, and we'll see you at the next session and maybe before. So thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Massner. Thank you everyone for joining us. As always, fully motivated. Right. I get so energized by Mr. Massner and by you all. Once again, please, if you're on campus at Fort Lewis College, you're interested in getting a full-blown business model canvas, sticky notes, come by my office, EBH 150. If you want it delivered to you, send me an email, tell me where to deliver it on campus. If you're joining us from beautiful Farmington and San Juan College, please shoot me an email at mevaldez@fortlewis.edu, and I'd be happy to send you anything you need to support your efforts. So tonight is all done. Thank you so much for making this a success, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday and at the next installment of the Swan Global Investments Hot Tank Workshop Series. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Good.
Thank you, Gary.
Yep.